Hello, my name is Chawapon Intasrevo, and this video I'm going to be explaining about inheritance in Java. So what does inheritance mean? Basically, it is the ability of a subclass to inherit or possess the same attribute and or method from its superclass. So there are two main keywords, subclass and superclass. So what does those mean? So let me demonstrate them using Pokemon. So let's say I want to create a Pokemon. I need to create a base class for all Pokemon. So what does every Pokemon have? First thing, it is the stats. So let me add them. Okay, we got the stats. Now we're going to create the constructor. Okay, we got the stats down. So what next? Each Pokemon also have its ability. So I'm going to add it in here. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to make it that it will print out the ability. So this Pokemon gives an ability. And next we got moves. So if you ever play Pokemon before, we know that each Pokemon can let up to 4 moves in its slot. So I'm going to add only 2. Let's call them primary move and secondary move. And print out this. Use its primary move. And second one being deploy. Use its secondary. Okay. So we got all the basics down. Let's start with creating the first Pokemon, being Trapinch. So first of all, I'm going to extend Trapinch from the class Pokemon, so that we can use all these functions and methods and attributes from Pokemon. So that's an error. There is no argument constructor available in Pokemon. That we can fix it in 2 ways. Either create a no argument constructor for this subclass Trapinch and then call the constructor of Pokemon, or we can create a constructor the same as Pokemon. So I'm going to do the second one. Should have the same amount of arguments here. And then either I can copy this 6 statements, or I can use keyword super. So what does keyword super does in this example? Basically, if you use super and then the brackets, it will call the constructor of its superclass. So in this case, the subclass is the Trapinch. Why? Because it is extended from Pokemon, meaning that the Pokemon class is the superclass and the Trapinch is the subclass. So if we use this, we will actually call the constructor of Pokemon. But there are 6 arguments, and we also need to put 6 arguments here as well. Okay. Next, you can see that Trapinch, it has the ability called Hypercutter, and then when we call them, we want it to actually print out this Pokemon use Hypercutter, not use an ability. So what can we do? Well, that this little thing called overriding. Let's override. So basically, what override does it will somewhat replace the function uh, in the subclass. It will change the outcome. So let me demonstrate. Override the function ability. Okay, so it said that we want it to print out this Pokemon used use Hypercutter, right? Okay, Hypercutter. So what does this do? Let me show. Say our the class Pokemon. Pokemon. The stats, make it random. Okay. Ability. Okay, ability. And then the second one being from Trapinch. And the stats here. Oh, so okay. Let's take a guess. If Pokemon use ability, what it will do, and if Trapinch use ability, what will it do? As you can see, from Pokemon the first line, it printed out this Pokemon use an ability. But in the second one, from the Trapinch, it says this Pokemon use Hypercutter. Let me check that. Okay. So meaning that the function ability, despite being the same name in the is in the same name as its superclass, its function is different due to the override command. So we change the function inside the code inside the function to be the one from superclass when to be the one of the subclass when called from the subclass, but the one in the superclass will be the same, as you can see here. So we can actually use that in our advantage. So and yeah, since Trapinch is extended from Pokemon, right, we also need to change the primary move and secondary move to be different thing. Not this Pokemon use primary move and secondary move. So let me override. Oh. Okay, this autocomplete, very nice. Oh yeah, and from this we can also see that if we override but we still want to use the same function as the superclass for any reason, we can also use the keyword super, meaning that this super is reference to the superclass being the Pokemon, but we want to change it. So let me change it and make it print out one of the moves. Okay, let me choose set attack. And the secondary move being bulldoze. Okay. So if we use Trapinch and primary move, it will print out sand attack, and for the secondary move, it will print out bulldoze. Alright, there it is. Okay. And for its second evolution, we have blah blah blah. We can actually do the same from Trapinch, as in extending from Trapinch, not Pokemon, because we want to actually copy all of this. Extend Trapinch. Okay, so let's take a guess. Since in Trapinch we override these three functions, if we call it from Vibrava, what will it display out? The okay, for ability, will it display Hypercutter or the ability? Let's see. Okay, for the stats. Okay. Ability. It used Hypercutter, meaning that it is inherited directly from Trapinch, not from Pokemon. So, but there is a problem here. You see, Vibrava doesn't have the ability Hypercutter. Instead, it has Levitate. So we also need to override it as well. Let me use this code. Okay. But for the moves, it can basically use the same move, so I will not override those, and it will be able to use the same as from Trapinch. Alright, it works. Okay. Now, lastly, for the last evolution, Flygon, there's nothing much to do because extends from Vibrava. Since its ability is also Levitate, so we do not need to override that. And the same goes for moves. It can use the same for moves, 2 moves as before. So what we need to do is create a constructor for this. And it all should work. For its stats. Okay. And if we call its ability primary moves, then it will be the same as Vibrava. Ability primary moves and secondary move. It should be the same as Vibrava. There it is. Okay, so that's all for inheritance, the basic of inheritance and overriding. So thank you for listening.